done. I don't like the fact that they stole $12 million from the Detroit public school system with people who are sitting on a board saying they didn't know it was happening and they were the main perpetrators of it. I want you to know that the EAA is the worst thing that's happened to the Detroit public schools, even worse than the emergency manager. I would work like hell to abolish it and do everything, and I'm going to continue to do that in the legislature.
Thank you very much. Crystal Crittenden, I select you for the next question. What are you going to do to assure our water company stays our water company and keep the Detroit name? What will you do about preserving Detroit's water? Sue.
Right now, there is a plan to divest the city of the water department. They're going to take that asset off our hands too. They're doing us all these wonderful favors. We have the best water, not in the country, Mr. Durhall, in the world. This has been ranked the #1 water treatment system in the world. Hands off the water department. Right now, a company called EMI is there. Their plan is to privatize 81% of the jobs there. 81% of the employees at the water department will be laid off. The way they are going about it is illegal. I've said it many times, which is why I'm no longer corporation counsel. They don't want somebody who is going to tell them when they are breaking the law. I am going to authorize the Corporation Council of the City of Detroit to get into court at every opportunity to make sure that we stop this illegality that is taking place with respect to the raping of the City of Detroit's assets.
Thank you. Someone asked a three-part question on customer service in the City of Detroit. I want to ask you all three questions, but Mark Murphy, I would like for you to address the next question, and that is customer service in the City of Detroit a problem in your view? Come on. And how would you fix it?
Of course, customer service is a problem in the city of Detroit, and that is something that we need to address immediately. How do we address customer service?
Give them my money back.
It sounds like an idea, but this is how we address customer service in the city of Detroit. Many of the people that's actually doing the jobs in your city, I have talked to people that's actually out there doing the jobs. The reason why they're rude and they're demoralized is based upon the fact that they done took a 40% pay cut over the last couple of years.
Right.
Not only have they took a 40% pay cut, but I have talked to so many people in the city departments that don't even have basic uniforms. I know a few people that work for the water department. And just working for the water department, they said they are provided no uniforms, they are provided no real equipment. These guys, 2 doors down from my house, had to dig a 13-foot hole manually. When DTE had to dig a hole, they come out with a truck. We need to invest in our city workers and invest in the dollar and make sure they are happy so you can be happy in your community. Thank you.
The next question is for Tom Barham. This person asked you to talk about safety. You have 1 minute to talk about your plan for safety.
This is the most important part of this gathering, but I just got a page from the accounting department, and they have a problem with the general ledger, so I'm going to have to do. No, I'm just kidding. This is the most important part. This is the most important part of this forum. This is the most important part because it comes from regular, ordinary people. Public safety is job number 1. My 4% heroes tax is going to get us some cops out here in the neighborhood. And we're not going to go back to the stop and frisk, crackheads, Big Four, all those kind of things that they've done to us in the past. The objective here in Detroit is to take it over and to put us and subjugate us and make us much less than what we are. and then let us be in charge of picking up the paper and then locking folks up. We are not going to go that way. Public safety is number one. I will make sure that you can get a cop. I watch them riding around. They can be answering these calls. I watch them, they're not doing anything. There's a conscious decision being made to not service us. There's a conscious decision being made to break our spirit and to make us believe that we've got to accept this man. It's simply wrong.
The next question will be for Jean Bortkamp. And this is from a lady out here who says, as a senior who has worked in Detroit most of my adult life, now that I am retired, I find myself locked in at home because of the crime. What can you do to make me feel better?
Okay, aside from all the improvements that we've all talked about for public safety, I think there's things that you can do every day on your block. And the first thing is that I would ask that you get to know your neighbors. I would look around and see if there's someone that can look out for you. I think there need to be senior walking groups so that seniors can feel comfortable again in their neighborhoods. I think there need to be block clubs so that if they don't feel comfortable going to talk to someone in their neighborhood, that then they can reach out to someone through their block club. I think that neighborhood police officers that you know by name that come out to community meetings would also help seniors feel better. And I would also advocate for perhaps free self-defense lessons at senior centers, as well as having seniors being able to go to senior centers and have them open again. So that's what I would do.
Thank you. This next question is actually addressed to 3 of the candidates. It is addressed to Tom Barrow, Crystal Crittenden, and Lisa Howes. It says, you all have all the answers, but before all of our assets are taken away, why can't we come together with a plan to secure our assets now instead of waiting for an election? To repeat the question, you all have all the answers, but before all of our assets are taken away, why can't we come together with a plan to secure our assets now instead of waiting for an election? I will give each of you 30 seconds since it's 3 to 3 of you.
Thank you very much. As the Corporation Counsel, I could have done things if authorized by the mayor to do them. I'm just a staff attorney now. I don't have what is called standing in order to file my own individual lawsuit. We are going to need the legislation, or we are going to need a lawsuit. Fortunately, there have been 2 lawsuits filed by individuals who do have standings in the federal court system. One of them is going to ask the court to ask Mr. Orr to cease and desist from doing anything until after the court rules on the constitutionality of this Emergency Manager Act. I will say, however, that Mr. Durhall, he is a current sitting legislator. He is working on a bill now that is going to serve to try to protect the city of Detroit's assets if it is passed. But let me say this, we have to get this election locally correct, but we've got to get it right in Lansing too. Because we've got some people up there in Lansing who are not working in the interest of the people of the city of Detroit. So Mr. Durhall, although he can sponsor the bill, he's going to have an uphill battle because he's not going to get the support that he needs. So we've got to put pressure on these legislators. We are residents of the city of Detroit, but we are residents of the state of Michigan, and we're not begging for anything, we're demanding what is owed to us.
Thank you. Tom Barrow, can you come and address the question? What can you do before all of Detroit's assets are taken away before the next election?
Thank you very much. It's very limited, to be candid with you, as to what we can do. I had to spend my own money to give it to somebody who wasn't qualified to be on the ballot. I can't, it's important for us to recognize that's the reality of where we find ourselves. In my view, because this whole law is unconstitutional, success in the court system on this unconstitutional law is going to be the way that we're going to be able to protect ourselves. He has no incentive, nor does the governor have any incentive to listen to us. You just heard our city council president ask for permission to be off for a little hot minute. So you know that they have no respect for us. So the answer is, as a practical matter, all of this is illegal. What they want to do is have a weak, go along, get along, standing mayor when this election is over. And that's why you got to select wisely.
Lisa House, what can you do? You have 30 seconds.
Are y'all ready to be quiet again? Just kidding. Okay, first of all, I issued the Detroit Kickstart Initiative as a part of my campaign in February of this year to address what we can do now. I've always said that this isn't an issue that can afford to wait until I'm elected and take office in January of 2014. We have to do it now. So from a local level, there were resolutions that when the council had power, they could have exercised it, but they chose not to. I did go to Lansing and participated and actually provided my Kickstart initiative when they appealed the appointment of the emergency manager. I was there in the beginning. The second thing that there's things that we can do from a legislative standpoint that I, as a former legislator, never have to ask permission to step on the House floor. So I will be able to advocate for you now and when I become mayor without asking permission to lobby the right side of the aisle as well as the Democrats who are supposed to represent us.
Thank you. The next question, I select John Telford to answer this question. You have 30 seconds. If the charter was changed to strengthen residency requirements for running for the office of mayor, given the many promises candidates make and break, would you be in favor of making it easier to remove an elected person? And if so, how?
I don't have any problem with the rules now. The problem is enforcing the rules. You've got these Nazis in Lansing that are breaking all the rules. So, you know, I mean, if there's I never in my wildest imaginings, even 15, 20 years ago, thought that I would see us where we are right now. Particularly with the schools. You know, I focus on the schools. A lot of you folks may not know what they did to us and how fascistic it was. They took, I mean, Mr. Roberts gave away 15 of our schools. 15 of them. You know, Denby, Pershing, Central, and the EAA, I wish I had that question, by the way. But the other one is just a moot point because the rule of law is suspended in Michigan right now, and we've got to get it restored.
This is from a City of Detroit firefighter, and Mr. Shapowski, I would like for you to answer this question. As a firefighter for the City of Detroit, I see and deal with the doom and gloom of abandoned, blighted, fire-damaged, and vacated properties daily. What will you do to improve and speed up the inefficient demolition process currently in place?
First off, I advocated for the firefighters to get the proper equipment, their ladder equipment being utilized, and the proper trucks appearing at the appropriate fires that they need to fight the fires with. What I would do with these houses is I'm going to conduct, if a fire has already gone, the structure is no longer a safe structure. Once I get the fire report, one team will come back on the structure, the next team will come and scoop it up, and the next team will fill in the hole. And if it's owned by a landlord, resident, somebody, if they can't meet the cost, they can help pay the cost to help set off the process. Because I am not going to hire contractors to tear down houses. I am only going with people tearing down these houses, citizens, employees. I'm putting back to work. I'm not doing contractors. It's not going to work. There's always cost oversight overseas, and they hold you like a hostage. And the same thing like this EM does. Every time you do something with him, it's bankruptcy.
Thank you. We have been asked to acknowledge that Mother Hattie Jacob is 101 years old. Happy birthday, Mother Hattie Jacob. Thank you. Thank you, everyone, for acknowledging Mother Hattie Jacob. Now, we've already talked about this topic a little bit, but this person asked you to go a little bit deeper with your thoughts. With the appointment of the emergency manager, what do you envision as the true role of Detroit's next mayor? Understanding that if the emergency manager is still in place, as in the next mayor of the city of Detroit will have less power than any mayor in the history of the city of Detroit. Candidate Griffin, I would like for you to come forward and address this question.
The mayor's role, as any other politician in the city of Detroit, should always be an advocate for the citizens, no matter what his or her position may be. Whether there's an EM in place, whether there's not in place, you should be an advocate for the citizens. You should make sure that the EM is not here for a long time at all, and make sure that we never, ever go through the same predicament that we're in right now.
Thank you. This next question concerns regionalization in the city of Detroit. The question is, do you support regionalization of Detroit? And I guess this question means, do you support working with the counties, other cities in the region for the betterment of the city of Detroit? Okay, each of you can have 30 seconds to answer this question. Okay, I'm sorry. Will you come forward to address this question?
Thank you. As a city worker and a socialist, whether you call it regionalization or public ownership, the question is, who controls the resources? It is big business that controls the resources. It is the workers that create all the wealth, but the money that we create goes into their pockets. I am for taking care of the workers, the city workers, the state workers, the county workers. Not only should their wages be restored, full benefits, as well as a full retirement. Secondly, I am for the working class deciding how these resources are utilized for the benefit of society as a whole. Because as workers, we are the majority in society, but our voices are not being heard, as well as we're being told to work harder and for less money. So therefore, I'm saying there should be a government of workers, by workers, and of workers in order to secure our rights, as well as for future generations, and not only have a job, but free education, as well as socialized medicine.
Thank you very much. Is there someone else who would like to address this question? Someone who expressed interest in talking about your opinions and your position on the regionalization in Detroit? Tom Barrow. You have 30 seconds.
me say the one who really needs to be answering this question is over to the jailhouse. They say you got an emergency. Because this morning he told everybody that he was for regionalization. I am absolutely opposed to it. That is part of the slick plan that they're using right now to take us over. This whole concept of regionalizing Belle Isle, regionalizing the lighting system, regionalizing the bus system, regionalizing the water system, regionalizing all of the city's assets, I am opposed to that. And that's why that person's not here. You see, I got rid of their main man. They're going back to their backup now. And so what we got to work on is we got to recognize that this is all part of this phony plan they're trying to do to take us over. So no, I'm opposed to it, and I would suggest that anybody up here who is supporting regionalism, you do not need to go that way.
I am opposed to it as well for this very same reasons. How many people know that SMART is a regional transportation system? SMART opted out. Look, the city of Livonia opted out of the SMART system because they didn't want people to be able to get out of the bus in Livonia, people who were using that bus to be able to get to work. No, I am not for regionalization. We have no control over it once we lose the asset. And this is, like Mr. Barrow said, it is a way to divest us of another asset. Regionalization, authorization, privatization is all a code word for we're going to come after Detroit's assets.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, don't you find it very interesting and ironic that folks want to approach us about regionalism? Okay. Have you ever known any of us to go and ask them to regionalize a doggone thing with them? And the reason why is very simple. It's about separating you from your assets, allowing them to take over in a very slick way. I oppose all that crap. I think it's crap. I think it's just a way to get us up the highway so you can get the unarmed robbery going on. And then, after they get through with that, they really put the gun on you and do the armed robbery. Yeah. There's no way in this world I'm going to ever support regionalizing all of this stuff, privatizing all of this stuff, merging together so that we end up on the bottom end of everything. The city of Detroit is worth its weight in gold. And that's why a little fella this high is spending billions of dollars to try to buy this city back. And I'm telling you this, ladies and gentlemen, if we fall for that okie dokie, we are nuts indeed.
Would you like to address this question? You have 30 seconds.
Somehow or other, we have to gain access to the opportunities that suburban folks have. There is a very wise man named John Powell. Some of you may know him. I taught him at Southeastern High School back in 1960. He later became the Harvard professor and became the National Legal Director of the ACLU. He came up with a concept called federated regionalism. And I spoke about that in one of my books, What Old Men Know. I'm an old man, so I have the right to write a book about what old men know. And I'm looking at it, and it's too complicated to explain in toto in 30 seconds, but the visionary version of federated regionalism is propounded by Detroiter John Powell as an effective way to promote racial justice. And if anyone is interested, I have that in my platform. And I would be more than happy to share it with you at drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. That's drjohntelfordedd@aol.com. Thank you.
Mark Murphy, you have 30 seconds.
I'm just going to be very brief with this question. I'm not for regionalization, but I am for taking that bus, and we need our bus across 8 Mile, because we need to get over there just as well. Thank you very much.
Would any other candidate like to address this question? Mr. Shapowski, you have 30 seconds.
I oppose. Didn't we learn our lesson from the Coble Hall situation? Okay? I oppose. It's not going to happen. Not on my watch.
Thank you very much. The next question is from Cassandra Walker Key. And she wants to know, what are you going to do for small business owners? I would like for Judge Lipscomb to address this question. What are you going to do for small business owners? You have 1 minute to answer this question.
Thank you. I was downtown last week talking to just people who were walking up and down the street, and the gentleman walked up, we struck up a conversation. It turned out he was an African-American gentleman who has a small jewelry store in one of the major office buildings downtown. And so I said to him, I said, I'm from Mayor, what can we do to help your business? He looked at me, he said, give me more customers. That's what business owners want. They want more customers to generate more revenue. So we need to bring more people back to the city, retain the people we have in the city. Last year, we lost 4,500 people. That represents lost revenue. So he kept it simple. Get me more customers. And that's what I would do for business. I'm going to be meeting with the couple of the Chamber of Commerce soon, and I know they're going to say the same thing. They want more customers. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next question, is there a place in your platform that requires residency for City of Detroit employees? I would like for Fred Durham to address this question. You have 1 minute.
If they can crack heads in the city of Detroit working for the Detroit Police Department, they should live here. That's right. There's no way in this world Durham as mayor is going to stand back without fighting in the courts and wherever else we need to fight for residency. The tax base of the city of Detroit moved out of town when they allowed police officers and firemen and other city workers to take your money, your tax dollars, and move out of town. The money doesn't circulate inside the city of Detroit. And that's why Detroit looks like it looks. I'm telling you this, from the time I walk out of this place, because we've been fighting residency for some time up there, but I intend to fight it on a new platform where we're going to go and march on folks and do what we need to do to let people know if you work for Detroit, then you're but better live in Detroit. Just that simple.
Thank you. I think this question is so important and so relevant to the conditions we have in the city today. I have a sneaking suspicion that there's more than one candidate here tonight that would like to address this question. If so, you have 30 seconds. Please come forward. Is there a place in your platform that requires residency for City of Detroit employees?
Everyone needs to understand that we cannot, as a city, require city employees to live in the city of Detroit. The state of Michigan, state law controls. In 2000, the Michigan legislature adopted new laws that say that cities can no longer make their employees live in the cities that pay their paychecks. So we can talk all day long about wanting to bring residency back, unless and until we clean house in Lansing and get some people up there in Lansing who are going to represent us, we're going to have this problem. And let me just say, this was done for the city of Detroit. Because a Ferndale police officer doesn't mind having to live in Ferndale to work there. A Farmington Hills police officer doesn't mind to have to live there, but people resented having to live in this city in order to get these good city jobs. And so we need to wake up, make sure that we are putting people in office locally who are going to work in our best interest, but on a state and a national level as well.
I think everybody has the same feeling about that because that law was directed at us. That's why it was created. For the past 10 months when I was school superintendent, I lived in Detroit. I mean, I've always lived in Detroit. Ask Mr. Roberts where he lives. He's the emergency financial manager, emergency manager now for the school district. He lives in Bloomfield Hills. And I would suggest that most of the top administrators who are in the Detroit Public Schools right now do not live in the city. This is not good. We need to be in the neighborhoods, we need to be where our kids are, and I say the same thing for police and fire. There are ways that we can create incentives now, though, even under the current law, so that perhaps our policemen and our firemen and our teachers might be more willing to live in the city. Right now, though, the law is directed directly at us, and of course, this is the only law that they've enacted to hurt Detroit. But it's one of the bad ones, one of the worst ones.
I want to repeat this. As a socialist, I am for workers having the right to live anywhere they choose. The middle class left Detroit because of the decline in city services and the high taxes. That was the reason why they left. Workers want to live in a city where they can afford to pay for services. What I am saying is, make the rich pay their taxes in order to provide city services. The rich people can just sit around the world and don't live in Detroit, but we give them tax breaks to help build a new stadium. Detroit Development Authority is giving $283 million of public tax money in order to build a new hockey town. But is that $283 being used in order to provide better city services, to get rid of blight, or to get back the wages of the city workers? Not at all. But those taxes for the DDA is constantly being used against us in order to drive the city lead drop down.
You have 30 seconds.
Thank you very much. I will say this, and I do agree that the state statute has changed, the law has changed. But I will tell you this, I'm sure hell going to try to test it. Because if, in fact, when you become a police officer, you probably have to shoot a gun real straight. You get some points for that. You probably have to take a test. You get some points for that. You probably got to lift something real heavy. You get some points for that. You probably got to be able to pass an exam or some other things. You get some points for that. But also, one of those things you're going to get some points for is where you live. It ain't going to be the main item. It's going to be some of those points. And what I'm going to do to test this is I'm going to have that added on as the list of the criteria. So you can do real well on a lot of other things, but if you don't get those last few little points, then you're not going to be able to get the job. We got to be just as clever as they are. That's why they fear me. They know that I'm not scared, and they know that I'm core Detroit. And that's why I say to you folks, when you make your choice, know who's not here. Know what they're trying to be able to do. They want this city and everything that we have. They want to leave us broke and standing out there with a broken spirit.
Lisa House, you have 30 seconds.
It has already been stated that this is state legislation, so that's where that law would have to be reversed in order for it to take effect in the city of Detroit. But let's put this in perspective. The city of Detroit has approximately 11,000 city employees, maybe 3,000 DPS teachers and administrators working in the school system. Combined, that's maybe 15,000 people. We have lost 250,000 people in the city of Detroit in the past 10 years. Why? Because of city service. The number one priority is public safety. If people don't feel safe in this community, they're not going to live in this community. They're not going to visit this community. So how do we make Detroit better? How do we make it more attractive for people to want to come? We've got to be about public safety. If we can't have an officer on every corner, and we won't be able to do that, we can have eyes in the skies. That's why I'm proposing the crime surveillance camera plan that will reduce violent crime in the city of Detroit by by 25%, like they did in Baltimore, like they did in Toledo, and like they're also doing in St. Louis. If they can do it there, we can do it here. We will get people back wanting to live in the city of Detroit.
Lisa House, can you remain at the podium? I would like for you to also address the next question because your answer is somewhat already answered this question. What are you currently doing and in the future to increase the population and the number of businesses in Detroit?
It's already been stated that public safety is number one. But what attracts people to a community is the energy within that community. If you look at what's happening in downtown, someone referenced the little man that's buying up all the properties down there. Well, the fact of the matter is when Dan Gilbert moved to the city of Detroit and he established his business here, guess who came to follow? Blue Cross Blue Shield, the Campbell Ewald from Warren. We are attracting new businesses to the city of Detroit, and some of our suburban neighbors are saying we've got to create an economic stimulus in our neighborhoods or in our cities so that we can get those businesses to stay. So how we're going to grow Detroit is we have to make it attractive for young people. My mother taught me to go to school, get a good job, and get a good education and get a good job. I chose to do all those things, but the last thing I did is I came back. I decided that I wanted to establish my roots here in the city of Detroit. So we've got to make and create an opportunity for young people to want to stay here because that is the future of Detroit. Thank you, I am Lisa House.
Thank you. I would like Jean Vorkamp to address the next question. After this question, each of you will be asked one question, and then we will follow that with a 1-minute closing statement from each of you. Jean Vorkamp. This person asked, the banks through bond manipulation are looting Detroit. How will you preserve our voting rights and prevent takeovers? Would you like me to repeat that? Okay, the banks through bond manipulation are looting Detroit. How will you preserve our voting rights and prevent takeovers? So I guess it's the second part of the question that's the most pertinent here. How will you preserve our voting rights and prevent takeovers in the city of Detroit?
Okay. Our bonds, most of them are insured, so whenever they're deciding, are the pensioners going to get the money or are the bondholders going to get the money, they of course pick the pensioners to take away from. Whenever really those bondholders are insured and they will get their money. There is no reason for that. I think there needs to be a public education campaign about bonds. I think when people vote for bonds, they don't know that that means a loan. They don't know that you're going to pay back 2, 3, 4 times what you vote for in a loan. So when you vote, yeah, we need new schools, like when we did, we're paying for those schools over and over and over again. So, what was the second part? The voting rights? The only way to preserve our voting rights is to get rid of the emergency manager. There is no other way to preserve our voting rights.
Thank you very much. John Telford, I would like for you to answer the next question and we'll proceed down the line from here. This question is from Victor B. Gibson. How important a role can African-centered education play in energizing African Americans to become more involved in not only politics, but all issues in our community?
It's very important for kids to recognize and understand their heritage. And this is why African-centered education in Detroit is so important. Now, I've been a teacher, I've been a principal, I've been a director, I've been a superintendent in this district for many years and in other districts too, which I ran. But when I was in Detroit, when I started out teaching, they had textbooks that taught Silas Marner. Epi was valued because of her golden hair. Silas of his gold. You know, these things were totally Eurocentric. And I was teaching majority African American kids. So I started writing some of my own materials. And I used those materials with my kids. In fact, some of them ended up getting published. I mean, it kind of caught on, you know, after the 1950s and 60s. By the 1970s, this was happening. But it's an absolute necessity to teach Afrocentric curriculum to African American kids. And I was one of the pioneers, okay?
Thank you very much. I would ask you this question, just for fun. I'm going to ask you this question, but I have another question. This person wants to know, why did the candidates not bring food for the people?
Do you know how long it takes to make a Polish dish?
Okay, your question is, this is a fun question also. As mayor of the city of Detroit, who would you hire out of the candidates running against you, and why?
Crystal Crittenden. I would give her unlimited access to do whatever she had to do to bring back, and if she threatened to say, well, the state's going to file bankruptcy, the state's going to file bankruptcy, because her first job would be to sue the property division of the state of Michigan because they did not report that money to the state of Michigan, to the property claim division when it should have been done, and we could have claimed that money that way. If they did that with $224 million, just think what the hell they did with 220 pennies, okay? So that's why I'm saying I would hire her because I would like to file a lawsuit called a malfeasance lawsuit with the Michigan's Unclaimed Property Division, because that money should have been claimed in that unclaimed property section there. Remember Shapkowski now.
Thank you. Judge Lipscomb, next question is for you. You have 1 minute to answer this question. As you know, many people live with shut-off utilities in the city of Detroit. As you also may know, some people are actually making a living reconnecting people's utilities illegally. What do you plan to do about utility shutoffs in the city of Detroit? You have 1 minute to answer this question.
Thank you. Well, there's currently a number of funds that citizens can tap into when their utilities are in jeopardy of being turned off. So I think we need to increase those funds and educate citizens about where they can go to avoid shutoffs, especially seniors and especially in the winter, and get corporate persons such as DTE, who are making a lot of money off of the city of Detroit, to help bulk those funds up so that people are not in jeopardy of losing their lives. I think it was last year or the year before, someone actually lost their life in this city because their utilities were shut off. That should not happen. I had a little bit of time left. I would have Afrocentric. I just finished a book called The Crocodile King. It's about a mythical African king who tries to stop the spread of slavery. And that's designed for young people to read, to tap into their heritage. I think it's very, very important that they understand it. Thank you. Really good.
Thank you. Now, I must extend an apology to you all. I am told that there's no more time for individual questions from candidates. Now is time for your closing remarks, and you will have 1 minute to make closing remarks to this audience tonight. We will begin with Jean Borkamp.
Hi, I hope you remember to vote for Jean Borkamp on August the 6th because I am a community person. I come from a community background, and that's what's always been missing from Detroit governance. I understand block clubs, I understand children's groups, I understand community groups, but I also understand bonds and municipal finance. But I also have the other part. I have the missing part for Detroit. Thank you.
Gotta get shoes that aren't so slippery. So I fell on my butt about 3 times when I shoes. I'm John Telford. I am a candidate for mayor. I am unbought, unbiased, and unbossed. Grew up in Detroit, love Detroit, born and raised in Detroit. Our city is hurting. Our people are hurting. And it's hurting me to see that pain. And that's why I'm running for mayor. When I was the school superintendent, I worked for $1 a year. Since I only worked for 10 months, what's that, about 85 cents? I did that intentionally because there have been too many politicians in the past who were for sale, the highest bidder. Nobody's going to buy me. And I care about this city more than I can put into words. So vote for John Telford for mayor. Thank you.
Well, we learned a lot of good, interesting things tonight. And I want to tell you that voting for me is going to get your neighborhoods taken care of, the grass manicured, the abandoned house next door to you, like I had next door to me, taken down. The yard across the street, even people when they're pirating land, misuse of land, you're going to get what you really deserve. You're going to get city services like you've never seen before. And it's been long overdue. These women that take the bus, okay, they have these kids, hot days, waiting 3 hours for a bus. Buses should be running every 15 to 20 minutes, okay? You get to a doctor's appointment, then you miss your doctor's appointment. I mean, you know, if I'm providing a service, I gotta be sure it's there, okay? You have a doctor's appointment at 11 o'clock, you get there at 3 o'clock, then you have to reschedule. No, that's not gonna happen under my watch. Under my watch, citizens come first. EMs, I'm not gonna please no EM. I've got 700,000 people I have to please. That's who I please. That's my boss, you. Shepkowski for mayor.
Your closing remarks, please. And you have 1 minute. While you're walking here, I would like to give special thanks to the water station for providing the refreshing, cooling water that we've had tonight. They're located at 18710 Woodward Avenue, right at 7 Mile, your 7 Mile and Woodward. Your closing remarks.
Thank you, moderator. You did a great job. And thank you, everyone, for hosting this. You were so attentive. One of the things that I think we need to do in the city of Detroit, we hear the president speak on this regularly, and that is getting families back together, strengthening families, and getting fathers into children's lives. The women in this city have done a spectacular job of raising these children, but they need help. And people, after 29, 30 years on the bench, people used to ask me, if you could change one thing to reduce crime, what would it be? I would say get more fathers in children's lives. Women need a break. They need a real break.
What's your name? What's your name?
My name is Willie Lipscomb, and I'm running for mayor. Thank you, young man.
Mark Murphy, we'd like to hear your closing remarks. You have 1 minute.
Let's think about what August 6th means. August 6th to me means this is one of the greatest elections that we have to look forward to, because it leads us in the direction of 2020. It leads us in the direction of 2030. Where we get in office today, or on August 6th, is going to move the city forward, or it's going to move the city backwards. August 6th means two things to me, not only the election, but my brother, Mr. Vernon, 19-year-old young man here in the city of Detroit, was a victim of homicide here in March of this year. I launched his campaign in January, and he was a victim of homicide in March. He was sitting on his front porch, and someone shot him in the back of the head in a botched attempted robbery. I'm planning on making sure that no one in this city have to ever face anything like that again. Because I have felt the heartfelt of a million people, and there's too many other families who felt the heartfelt of other people and family members dying in the city. So let's make those right investments, and those investments in you. You are the solution to this city. You will be my boss on August 6th and November 11th. I know who my boss is. My boss is right here in this room. My boss is on the D-Lot bus right now. My boss is in the back of an ambulance. My boss is you, and I'm going to invest in you. Thank you. Mark Murphy. And if you remember Eddie Murphy, I'm Mark Murphy, and I'm running for mayor.
Lisa Howes, before you begin, Helen Moore has an announcement that she would like to make before the candidates continue.
Okay, my people, everybody goes to church. You see this? With this center is facing closing. We are striving like crazy to keep our lights on. This is a nice center. It belongs to the community. I'm just asking everybody, some of the others that left, I'll see them later. But I'm asking everybody to dig deep and to leave some money for these children. We don't even have the lunch program going this year because we couldn't afford it. So before you leave here, and if you got checks, make them out to Dexter Elmhurst Center. Miss Henley, our treasurer, is sitting right there with the hat on. And we appreciate everything you've done. It's been a wonderful evening. Don't forget the children, and don't send your children to the EAA schools because they're not working in their experiments. Thank you.
Lisa Howes.
I am Lisa Howes. I look forward to bringing credible, proactive, accountable leadership to the city of Detroit. That is what CPAs do. Credible, proactive, accountable leadership to the city of Detroit. I'm like you. I was born in this city. I was raised in this city. I face the same issues that we all do as residents of the city of Detroit. I know that you're sick and tired of the crimes. I know you're tired of the gunshots going off in your neighborhoods. I know that you're tired of driving past blight, as we encountered on the way to this beautiful center. I also know that you're tired of politicians who will tell you what you want to hear to get you to march to the beat of their drum, and only to find ourselves walking in circles. We have to move not on emotion, but on proactive forward movement. And so where I want to lead this city is forward. The only way we make the city of Detroit better is by making the city of Detroit better for you. I am Lisa Howes. I ask your vote on August 6th and November 5th. Better for Detroit. Thank you. Thank you.
Tom Barrow, we await your final statement. You have 1 minute.
Madam Moderator, thank you very much for your advice today. To the friends of Dexter Elmhurst Community Center, I want to express my thanks for having this and really uphold for doing so well in organizing this. My friends, in 2009, we had an election. For those of you who do not know, Wayne County Board of Canvassers could not recount 59,961 ballots because I discovered that the seals on the cases had been changed. 9,500 votes would have changed the outcome of the election. They needed David B to do what they're doing right now. They are setting it up again. You have got to stand tall. We've got to take back our city in the most strongest and most urgent way. If we do not stand, we will be taken back to the days of Jim Crow. I heard a question earlier about African and Afrocentric studies. You have to know our history to be able to recognize so clearly what's happening to us here now. That's why I'm asking you, because we won't let them steal it again. I'm asking you here for your support and for your vote so that we can take back our city. My name's Tom Barrow, and I want to be your mayor.
Thank you. Crystal Christensen, we'd like get to your closing remarks. You have 1 minute.
Thank you all so much for having us and for putting this wonderful forum on. We can all sit here and tell you what we're going to do if we become mayor. I have already demonstrated to you this past year, and it was not easy, that I am going to stand up for the residents of the city of Detroit no matter what. What is going to take place in the city of Detroit is going to be wonderful, but it is going to be wonderful for certain people. People in Midtown and downtown, people who are relocating to the city. Not the people who are in these neighborhoods, and not the people who have been here supporting the city. Now, it's nice for certain candidates to say that they're opposed to the emergency managers now. It would have been even nicer had they said that last year when I was involved in this very, very public battle on behalf of this city. We can all say what we're going to do. I've shown you what I'm going to do. It is upsetting to me that certain candidates think that there are other issues that we should be talking about other than emergency manager, and to think that because I recognize that this is the most important issue that we have, that I can't discuss the other issues. I can discuss them all, but if we don't get Mr. Orr out of here, there is no need for any of us to plan to do anything with respect to any other issue. My name is Crystal Crittenden. I want to be your mayor. Please vote for me on August 6th and November 5th. Thank you.
D'Artagnan Collier, we await your closing remarks. You have 1 minute.
I am concerned about the future and the fate of the working class. I am not worried about the banks or the upper middle class. What I am saying is that capitalism has failed the working class people. The major banks and industries should be under the public ownership of the working class people. That is the only genuine way we can truly secure a future for ourselves, our children, as well. And I'm saying there should be mass public transportation. Reinstitute bulk trash and refuge. It should be every week, not every month. I am also saying stop all utility shutoffs. I'm also saying there should be socialized medicine for everybody. Once again, I am advocating that the working class builds a political party of its own that's made up of workers, by workers, and for workers. We have to reject the two big business parties. Thank you.
Thank you. Now we'd like to hear closing remarks from Herman Griffin. You have 1 minute.
Thank you to the moderator, to this Dexter. My slogan has always been and will continue to be to keep citizens first. I'm running because I have a plan and I am focused on the citizens. I'm a youth advocate. I tell people that all the time because that's the most important role that I've had, advocating for our youth, our at-risk youth, the kids, our future. In the charter, the first sentences, it says that our youth are our most treasured assets. And we have to remember that and keep promoting that. And Herman Griffin, again, for mayor, is trying to keep the citizens first and is looking for your vote. Thank you.
Brad Gerard, we await your closing remarks. And a reminder that you have 1 minute.
Save the best for last. Again, I welcome all of you to my district. I want to thank you for coming. This building that you sit in is a direct result of Fred Durall's action. In the legislature, this building used to belong to Wayne County, to the state of Michigan. I had this building transferred to Wayne County, who in turn gave the building to the community. And I will continue to do those kinds of things as the mayor of the city of Detroit. We need to have police that are going to come when you call them. I'm guaranteeing you tonight, 8-minute response time, or they're going to answer to me personally. I also want to indicate to you, if you go by a police precinct, you'll see more cars in the parking lot than you see on the streets. That's going to end because we're going to do away on the day shift with 2-man cop cars. You're going to have 1 man, 1 car, just like you see in New York and Chicago and Los Angeles and Philadelphia and other good cities. We're going to beef up the amount of police that are serving out here because you gotta feel safe. I live in this community right here. I hear the gunshots every night. I hear the police sirens every night. We can change what we see here. Beirut has more in common with the city of Detroit right now than it ever has. And I'm gonna change it. Vote for Fred Durham. I've been with you, and I always will.
Thank you so much to each of the candidates. We are grateful for your presence and the time you spent, the thought you put into answering your questions. My name is Kimberly Hayes Taylor. I'm the editor of Black Detroit Magazine, and I welcome you to email me with any questions you have, stories you'd like to see in the magazine, and on our website. My email address is kim@blacdetroit.com. Thank you so much for being a great audience, and good night.
My name is Herbie Felton. I'm here at the Mayoral Community Forum. And I thought it was pretty informative, but there is a lot of questions that hasn't been answered. To me, they ask too many EM questions, and they should ask more community questions of what we're going to do about the tax base in Detroit. We need more people in the city of Detroit. Other than that, I thought it was pretty informative.
Yes, my name is Brenda Hill, and I thought there was actually too many candidates to get a good read on how they really felt. We were asking the same typical questions that have been asked at every forum. We need to ask some personal questions, some questions about situations that we all live with, and we need to make this forum a little smaller and do a few candidates at a time so that we can ask more questions that really relate to the everyday citizen.
My name is Lamar Keith, and this is my wife, Cassandra Walker Keith. And we were really informed today. One of the things that I would like to say is that the women are very strong in this campaign, and so I won't count them out. It helped to shape my impression about a lot of the candidates, and this was really an informal meeting, and I'm so glad that I took the opportunity to come here.
Yes, sir.
Good evening. My name is Connolly Brooks, and I have just been here listening to the candidates that are running for mayor of the city of Detroit. It was very intriguing and very interesting to know that most people are thinking the same way. We all have the same idea as far as the emergency management is being concerned, and the people that are running for mayor. We need our help, and we need our help now. Get it to us as soon as you can. Thank you.
My name is LaTanya Garrett, and I came out to the Mayoral Forum here at Dexter Elmhurst Community Center. I thought it was a well-organized and well-strategized forum that every candidate had the opportunity to answer the citizens' questions as they were given. So well thought out, well strategized, well put together, and I really enjoyed myself, and I did get my questions answered.
I'm Michelle Gibson. I'm also a precinct delegate. I came out tonight to this community meeting to get more information on all the candidates. This was the most informational, wonderful meeting that we had. 12 of the candidates were here, and now I know a little bit better about whom I may support. Elmhurst and Dexter is the community. It's in Detroit. We are real people, love Detroit, and now I know. This was the best thing. The people were here, everybody's still here, and it was an opportunity to learn what each candidate wants to do or wants to give, or how they can serve the citizens that live in the city of Detroit.